Welcome to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey from vision to reality. I'm Kelly Jackson, your guide on this path of self-discovery, transformation, and intentional living. Here, we explore everything from mindset shifts and personal growth to spiritual alignment and entrepreneurship, sharing insights, stories, and actionable wisdom to help you live a life in harmony with your dreams. Every episode will dig into what it means to not only dream big, but to actually consciously create the life you envision. Let's turn your dreams into real life. Hello and welcome back. I'm really excited about today's topic, holistic healing. This is near and dear to my heart. It is a huge part of why I'm even here today on this platform sharing my story is because I have lived life both ways. If you listen to that first episode when I was reading that transcript from the FOSS launch 3 years ago, then you heard a little bit about my health, kind of like the before and after, right? And y'all, the reason that I feel so called to share this story is because if I can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I have lived both ways. I've been on both sides of the health thing. I have lived in a body that felt broken, that did not feel safe, and in a body and in a mind that just was not healthy. And I've relied on medical intervention and Western medicines and all of these things to try to fix, quote unquote, all of these broken parts of myself and, all of that. And then also, I've been on the other side of it, and I have embodied this holistic healing journey for the last 8 years, and I'm older than I've ever been, aren't we all? And I'm in the best health that I've ever been in, too. And this, if I can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And that's why I'm here, because I want to share this story and I want to raise awareness and break down some myths, misconceptions, limiting beliefs. Who knows what we might find in there when we start chatting. So let's dive in. Let's start with this. What is holistic healing? Because honestly, back when I was living that lifestyle, where it was the pain and the injury, illness, disease, all of these things manifesting in my body, I don't even know that I knew what holistic health or holistic healing was at the time. So before we dive into it, let's just start there. Holistic healing, it's this approach to health and wellness that looks at the whole person, mind, body, spirit, and the emotions. And rather than just treating specific symptoms or ailments, the idea behind holistic healing is that all parts of a person are interconnected and affect each other. So true healing involves addressing all of these areas to restore balance and harmony into your life. So the main components of holistic healing would be the mind, which is mental well-being. That's key in holistic health. This includes practices to reduce stress, to build mental resilience, promote positive thinking. And this could be methods like therapy, meditation, mindfulness practices, or like cognitive exercises. And then it would be the body. Physical health is essential. So, holistic approaches encourage a balanced diet, regular exercise, adequate sleep, and sometimes natural remedies like herbal medicine, acupuncture, chiropractic care, things like that. Spirit, your spiritual health, that can mean different things to different people, but in holistic healing, it often involves finding meaning and purpose and this sense of connection with yourself and the world. And these practices would be meditation, yoga, or time in nature to foster a sense of inner peace and fulfillment, right? And finally, emotions. Your emotional well being is important to address in holistic healing because unresolved emotions can manifest as physical symptoms. And so, emotional healing techniques such as journaling and emotional release practices, working with a therapist, something like that, this can help people process and let go of negative emotions. Because I'm sure you've heard this. There's even a book, The Body Keeps Score, right? Our body holds trauma, our emotions. If we don't process these emotions, these unresolved emotions, if we repress them, if we push them down, if we pretend like they're not there, if we ignore them, if we don't do anything with them, they will manifest in our body as a physical, an injury, an illness, a disease, an infection, an inflammation. This can be a manifestation of emotions that are stuck in our body. So, the goal of holistic healing is to empower individuals to take charge of their health and to cultivate balance in all areas of life for long term wellness. Okay, that's just a brief little summary of it. And now we're going to dive into it, okay? Really dive into it. I want to start by giving you a little bit more about my own personal story, and maybe you'll see yourself in some of that, okay? And let's go from there. So at 11 years old, so maybe around 7th grade, I was diagnosed with two things, with IBS, that's irritable bowel syndrome, and with depression. And I have this early memory of being a child. It was a gymnast, and another parent had to pick me up after gym and take me home that day. And I remember when my mom came to pick me up in the driveway, the other parent saying to my mom, "What's wrong with her? She walks around looking like her best friend just died." And I also remember my dad was an artist, caricature artist, and it's when he draws people in the character things, it's his sense of humor, it's his art. I remember though this drawing he had done, and it was included me and my sister in it when we were young, and we were back to back, and our arms were crossed and our lip was poking out, and we were angry and we were mad. And this was all taking place at a car show. We grew up going to car shows. So he drew all the other things. He was an artist at car shows. It was actually fun. We would grow up going to the car shows, and he would set up his tent, and he would draw pictures of the guys and the gals with their hot rods. And so my sister and I grew up going to those car shows. But I remember that drawing, and I remember that I was not perceived as a happy child, perhaps because I wasn't. But what I didn't know then was what I know now. And so let's just go to this. So middle school, 7th grade, I had to get glasses and contacts because my vision was bad. I couldn't see. I couldn't see the board. It was real blurry. And they said, you have a chemical imbalance and your body doesn't produce enough serotonin and you're going to have to take this medicine to, be normal or whatever normal is. And um and all these issues in my stomach. I was having all of this digestion and like gut health problems and having to go in and get this testing that was really uncomfortable, especially being a child. Like, what? Drinking this like really uncomfortable or really gross liquids, and to get the x-rays, and then having to have like the bare emina and things like that. Like, it was not, there weren't pleasant memories or experiences, right? But it was always like there was something wrong with me. There was something wrong with me. And again, I didn't know anything about holistic healing at the time. And another thing that happened growing up, and this will all come into play. You'll see how it all ties together. But I had moles on my body. Still do. I still have them. And the thing is, I think it's so amazing with the beauty of social media. I've been able to see, I've actually seen some accounts and some women who they've like gotten on there and speak, or they're like, I love this mole on my face. It's so beautiful. I love this mole on my neck. It's so beautiful. And it's like, I'm in awe because my experience and relationship with moles was very different. My mom was always really scared of them, and I had a lot of them. And so I was always being checked for my moles, and we need to go to the doctor, and we need to have that one removed, and we need to make sure that that's not trying to kill you. And I was so ashamed of my moles. I was so afraid of my moles. I was like, what is wrong with my body? I have all these moles, and they're these things that are going to kill me, and they're so bad, and I need to be ashamed of them. And not once did I ever look at a mole and think it was beautiful. And because my association with them, right, is going to the doctor as a young child, taking your clothes off, having to have somebody look all over your body and touch it, and sometimes having them cut off and sent to labs and anxiously awaiting the results. Is it going to kill me? You know what I'm saying? And so that all played into the experience of it, and my mental health associated with it, and all of this kind of stuff. And the other thing was, I grew up in an environment and in America, and it was where if something was wrong, it was, what's wrong? What are you feeling? And take a medicine for it, right? Because, and I get it. And especially think about, you're a parent and you don't want to see your child suffer. You don't want something to happen to your child. And if they have all of this medicine that's been created, then why not take it? It will help you feel better. And we're going to circle back around to this about have a different perspective now. But let's keep going. So after that, so taking medication for the depression, right? And then still as a teenager, then it was like the anxiety came. And so there's medicine for that. And then it's ADD, problem focusing in school and everything. And so there's medicine for that. And all of these things. And then, so now we're kind of getting to late high school into college. And I had the rotator cuff that it was just, I couldn't do much with it at all leading up to the surgery. And at the time, the left was bad. It wasn't as bad. I could do things, but I was actually thinking that I was going to have that one done as well. They won't do them at the same time, obviously. They're for obvious reasons. If you've ever had or seen someone who's had a rotator cuff surgery, your arm is attached to your body with 2 straps for 6 to 8 weeks. So you couldn't do both arms at the same time because you need at least one arm. If you are fortunate to have both arms to begin with, then they're going to limit it to only doing one at a time. And in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't do both because I didn't need it. But there was a time when I thought I did. I believed that I did. So, around that time, the rotator cuff surgery was happening. The gut health issues are back, and they're back. And I mean, we're talking, this is, I was going days, sometimes a week, without having a bowel movement. That was pretty common, pretty regular. And it was pretty regular to not be regular for me. And it blew my mind that there were people who were like having bowel movements every day and even like twice a day sometimes. I was like, wow, people really live like that? Because days, like I said, sometimes a week. And yeah, it didn't feel good because it would become constipation and I would have cramps and gas pains and things in my stomach that were so severe that it became where I couldn't even work. And while all this is happening, keep in mind, I'm getting sick regularly. And it was kind of like I expected it. I mean, I'm getting the flu twice a year, but like, doesn't everybody get the flu twice a year? And I'm getting sinus infections a couple times a year, but like, doesn't everybody get sinus infections a couple times a year? And, you know, all of these little things that are happening. And now I had also, through that period of time of late teen, early adulthood, gone through what they called adult onset acne, because it didn't happen when I was like a preteen starting puberty. It happened later. And so that became unmanageable for me and was affecting my already low self esteem at the time. And it was just kind of this cycle. So I did a couple rounds of Accutane for that because of course I'm looking at all the external things. What can I use? What can I put on? What can I treat it with, right? And I was doing this for everything. When I got a cold, anything I was doing, it was like, what medicine do I need to take? Go to the doctor, get the cortisone shot, get the this, get the that, take the antibiotic, do the thing. And it was never looking at, what does my environment look like? What what are the relationships in my life right now? What does my workload look like? Like, what is my mental health? Like, I was never, well, part of my mental health, the things I was treating was my mental health, but I wasn't looking at all of these other things like what we talked about. So I would just continue to do what was around me and do what had been taught to me and do what I knew to do. And mind you, the things I was eating was a lot of processed foods. I think I want to say, yeah, well, a lot of processed foods. Just a lot of. I didn't know how to cook. I did not. I never learned. Uh, I didn't. Now my mom cooks just about every night now. Growing up, that wasn't the case. She did. She worked two jobs. Like my parents, both. My mom was an educator, and she worked multiple jobs, and my dad, like she wasn't cooking back then, but we had, I remember a lot of frozen meals, and she was doing the best she could. I'm not calling mom out, guys. I'm really not. I'm telling you how it was though. And I'm saying now, just like I've changed, mom's changed, right? Like mom cooks home cooked meals every night now. But let's go back to what it was then. So you got to look at the whole picture, this holistic health. So even from that young age, the things I was consuming were lots of frozen foods, fast foods, packaged foods, food in a can, the Lunchables, the Chef Boyardee's, the just things that you probably can't even pronounce a lot of the ingredients on the labels, right? And butters and mayonnaises and just all of the things, and probably lots of it. And so that was one of the things, right? And so then, but then even as I got out on my own, I didn't know how to cook, and I wasn't learning how to cook. And so I was eating frozen meals and things like that. And even though I would make what I considered at the time to be the quote healthy choices, right? It was like instead of the hot pockets, I was eating the lean pockets. That's what I'm saying. But like, you're doing the best you can with what you know at the time. And I just didn't realize the effect that not just that, but all of these different things, these contributing factors in my life, I didn't realize the effect that they were having on my overall health, my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, and my spiritual health, and how it's all interconnected. And so I'm having the back pain. So as all this, so now we're into early adulthood, and the chronic back pain is immobilizing. And to the point that they've diagnosed me at this point with scoliosis, got piriformis syndrome, herniated disc. I think a lot of these are the same, but things I would hear over the years: bulging disc, slip disc, herniated disc. And I was doing all of these different things. So I was taking medicine for the muscle spasms. I was taking medicine for the inflammation, and I was taking medicine for the pain. And I was getting cortisol, whatever, shots into my back every like 3 months. And I was doing chiropractic care weekly a couple times, but then I'm doing PT and electrostim and traction and, you know, walking around smelling like biofreeze 24/7. And I'm wearing a back brace. And I have this custom this backrest seat thing. It's like this cushion that had a part you sat on and then the back part. And it was like this custom made backrest I had to have that I would take with me to put in whatever chair I was sitting in that would support my lumbar in the way it needed to be supported. And like, I would have to put it in the car if I was driving, or put it in my chair if I was working. I mean, this was my life. And they had told me, you can't wear high heels anymore. And if y'all know me, I love high heels. I always have. One of my favorite memories of elementary school was listening to the teachers that wore high heels when they like clicked when they walked down the hall. And I couldn't wait till I could wear high heels. And now they're saying you can't wear high heels. And you can only wear a crossbody purse or bag. And so all of these restrictions that were starting and I just lived with chronic pain. And and I'm so young. And I was taking medicine to try to help it. And I was doing things to try to help it, going to different practitioners, trying different modalities. And again, what I didn't realize at the time was how interconnected all of this other stuff was. And I didn't even know at the time what holistic healing was, or what a holistic approach to healing would even look like or mean. And now keep in mind too, when I had become a workaholic, so when I was going through this, after having the girls, and I was really a workaholic and wearing busy like a badge of honor, and I was running on fumes. I was not prioritizing my sleep. I mean, I was maybe 4 hours a night, maybe 5 would be a good night, and regularly skipping sleep, like having nights where I just pulled all-nighters. And I would just go and go and go like this. And then, of course, I was getting sick. My body was getting run down. But I wasn't ever putting the connection, or I wasn't making any changes. I just kept going. And I just kept going. And when yoga discovered me, so around this time of year, so it was fall of 2016, and I had been living in this apartment for a year, the girls and I. We moved when we left the house we were living in. We moved into this apartment that's on my parents' property. I mentioned generational living in that first one. So we're on the same property as my parents. And my sister lived in this apartment at one time before the girls and I did, her and my nephew. And so she had left. There was like 4 books that she had left there. And when I had moved in, I had seen these books, never opened them. I just moved them around a couple times and moved them around. I kept them with my books on the bookshelf. They kind of got moved around, but I never opened them. And this day, it was just like, I'm going to open this book. And it was a book about yoga. It was a yoga book. And I just opened it and I just started reading it. And it went through some poses. And I remember the first one I did was a seated twist. And it unlocked something inside of me, and I was curious. And so from this place of yoga finding me, and I discovered this online community, online Instagram yoga community that was like doing challenges and stuff. And I was like, what is this? And I was drawn to it. And that athlete that was dormant inside of me was like, what is this? And then that artist that was still very much awake inside of me was like, what is this? And I saw the way that yoga was presented to me initially, right? Or I say that it was presented to me. First I had the book, but then when I was seeing it, was really drawing me in, was seeing all of these beautiful expressions of self through asana and through posture, and it was like self-expression, and it was art, and I was like, they're creating their art with their body, and that's what drew me in at first. And then the practice of yoga, as it unfolded and I discovered what it really was and what it was doing for me, it opened up the door to this new way of being and this new way of seeing the possibility. And it wasn't just with yoga, but keep in mind that as all this was happening, at the same time that I was discovering yoga, that yoga found me, I was learning about meditation, and I was starting to have this daily meditation practice and learning about like epigenetics and upregulating your DNA. And I was, into some Dr. Joe Dispenza stuff. And I'm going, wait, what can we do? And we can heal our body. And so I'm doing this, and I'm discovering yoga, and I'm moving my body, and I'm practicing meditation, and I'm learning about breath work, and all of these are new things. And these all are kind of coming into my life at the same time. So fall of 2016, I began a daily yoga, meditation, and breathwork practice. Now, keep in mind, this is a home practice. This yoga practice, this is happening. I'm reading books. My sister had left 2 yoga books, so I'm reading books, and then I'm starting to go onto YouTube. And Kundalini was the first thing that I was really drawn to and that I kind of opened up to as far as like yoga online, following along at online yoga with a teacher. And then it moved into Ashtanga, a little bit of that. And there were so many other different branches, that I was inspired by. But this was the first 2 things I was watching. And then, of course, like I just said, Instagram yoga, I'm calling that the challenges. And like I was learning about things through that. Different yoga teachers all get together. They put on these challenges where it lasts for this long. And each day, this is the pose for that day. And then they teach you about the pose. They teach you about the alignment, how to get into the pose, but then also just a little bit more about it. So I was like, but then there was the creativity aspect of it, which I loved. And so I was drawn into that. And here's what happened though with yoga. A year and a half I practiced without ever going to a studio. This was a home practice. I was practicing just like that. but I was practicing every day. So I wasn't going to classes, and that doesn't mean every day it was getting on and doing a full 30 or 60 or 75-minute yoga class. Some days a daily practice looks like 5 sun salutations. Some days it looks like 5 minutes on my mat. But it's the commitment and the dedication and the discipline to show up every day to move your body and to do this and to connect with your breath and to connect with yourself. And so the breath work, a daily breath work practice. So I started learning how to regulate my nervous system, something I realized I didn't know how to do. I had a very dysregulated nervous system, which contributed to a lot of the things that I was just listing that was going on with me. Because like if you walked into the room and I didn't see you, I would jump out of my skin. I would come out of my skin. I was so easily startled, which is definitely a sign of a dysregulated nervous system. I mean, so easily startled, guys, amongst other things, right? And so the breath work helped with that, helped to learn how to activate your parasympathetic nervous system and to self-regulate and to bring yourself to a place of centeredness and calmness. And then on top of this, so there's the meditation and visualization. So you're learning how to focus. And this is what's interesting. So I want to say all this. I'm going to keep going with this, but I want to say all of this I just told you, it's been over 6 years since I've even taken a Tylenol or an aspirin, like anything. My health now, it's 48, 72 hours I've felt unwell in 6+ years, and am not taking any kind of medicine at all. And so this is a huge drastic. And if whether or not you've seen my yoga practice or my contortion practice or the acro practice or any of those things I have, now I'm doing something like, let's say, a full wheel, which is, some of you may know what that is. Some of you go look on my Instagram, you'll see what it is. What I'm saying, this is like my body, my back is completely bent, completely backwards, where my hands are now grabbing my ankles, right? And this is the girl that was wearing back braces and special back rest and getting shots into my back every 3 months and told I couldn't even wear high heel shoes, which now I teach dance workshops in high heel shoes. Okay? Feminine energy dance workshops. Oh my gosh, and I love them. And I teach them in high heel shoes. Guys, if I can do it, you can do it. I want you to hear me. If I can do it, you can do it. And so on the one hand, I kind of feel like I'm all over the place here. And on the other hand, it's all connected. I just got to bring it back to center. This is essential, and I want you to hear it. So 6 months after the yoga, meditation, breath work, the daily practices, I just started like, this is who I am now. I'm doing these things every day. And I was journaling at the time. So I started journaling, daily journaling as well. And I also decided that I didn't want to be the one who was sick. I didn't want to take all this stuff. I didn't want to have to take the medicines. I didn't to be happy or to feel whatever. I wanted to be able to do it naturally. And what I learned was like holistically. And I was reading books and watching people and following stories, and I was learning that it was possible. I was learning that people are doing this. They're doing it. They're doing it with meditation. They're doing it with breath work. They're doing it with yoga or other somatic exercises or practices. They're doing it. And if they can do it, I can do it. Just like I'm here saying, if I can do it, you can do it. And so I set out to do it. And I started by changing my beliefs. And I went from saying, I remember specifically, I would tell my mom, I can't function without my Adderall. I have to have it. I could not function without it. And that was my belief system, that I couldn't function without it. And I quit saying that because I wanted to quit believing it. I wanted to believe that I am capable of being a really successful and productive entrepreneur without Adderall, or without labeling myself as ADD or ADHD. Like I don't think I've ever really learned how to focus. And through these intentional practices, I've discovered that I actually function really well and I can focus really well. And there's this monk, Dandiapani, who was influential to me at the beginning of this journey. And one of the things he said that I loved is that we're good at what we practice. And if we practice distracting ourselves, then we're going to be good at distracting ourselves. And that like resonated because I was really good at distracting myself. And now I've learned how to be really good at focusing. And it's a practice, and it's a muscle, and you can make it stronger. And that's really fun. So let's see where we're at. Okay. 6 months later. So I'm doing all these practices, and then I had been getting the signs. And I was resisting. I was like, no, 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 no. Not me. No way. Never, never, never. And what I was resisting was transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle, a vegan plant-based lifestyle. I kept getting these like signs, these little snippets, these little, flashes that would be like, feel like it's telling me, just, Kelly, time to become vegan. And I was like, no, oh, no, not me. My sister had been vegetarian for 10 years, and I'd watched her and was like, oh, I could never. And it's funny because it's like never say never, because what ended up happening was 6 months-ish after yoga, meditation, breath work, I did stop resisting, and I leaned in, and I transitioned literally overnight. I have a blog post about it. I can link it. You can read it. I transitioned to plant-based. And look, I'm the only vegan in my family. My children aren't vegan. My sister is still vegetarian, but no one in my family is vegan. This is like a me thing. This is a choice I make for myself. And I do think, though, and not only just the plant-based, in the very beginning when I decided overnight, I still didn't know how to cook. And it was kind of an overnight decision. So I was doing the vegan meats, the plant-based meats, the things that were like already made in the store that were plant-based. And over the course of the next 6 months, 2 things happened. My body, I realized that the processed food, that was like not for me. And I was going to have to come up with a solution because I really was committed to the plant-based lifestyle. However, I didn't want to be relying on these processed foods to be my source of protein or food. That, like, it needed to be whole foods from the earth. That's what felt aligned. So it was time for me to learn how to cook. I mean, in all honesty, it would have been a nice skill to have, for the 20 years leading up to that moment. But like, here we were, and now I was ready. And so I got one of those plant-based meal places that send you the food. It's already done. I was even overwhelmed to go grocery shopping, guys. Like, I didn't know about spices. I really didn't know much about anything when it came to cooking. And this helped me learn. So I did one of those things. They would send the box every week, and the ingredients were there. I didn't have to shop. The recipe was there, and I was learning as I went because they were saying words like that I didn't know how to do. Like, I don't even know that I knew the difference between dicing and mincing when I started, right? And so I learned and started cooking and realized that I enjoy cooking these sorts of meals for myself. It feels good. And I understand that there's love that goes into it. And this is all part of the holistic healing too, the energy work, the energy that goes into things. And now I'm prioritizing my health and I'm prioritizing what I'm consuming and what I'm putting into my body. And it even changed, again, the way that I'm feeding my daughters and the things that I want to feed my girls and the things that I want to provide for them in my home for them to consume. I have a whole nother perspective on that than I used to, because now I understand the importance of how this is all tied together and the quality of the foods that we consume and everything that we consume all affects our well-being. And again, that's the things that we're watching. That's just all of the things. So here we are. Now I'm having this daily practice of yoga and I'm meditating, breath work, eating, way less processed foods, like trying to keep that to if you look at an 80-20 lifestyle, like a 20% or under, that you're doing things that are bought and trying to really focus on having the majority of everything that you're consuming being things that are whole foods from the earth and have ingredients that, you can pronounce the names of. And for me, that's also organic foods and staying away from things that are have all of this genetically engineered stuff going on. And guys, through this practice and through this intentional and through the mindset and all the stuff, again, it's a complete change. The health, the mobility, the flexibility, the strength, the mental health, the clarity, the emotional health. This comes with doing the inner work. So doing the shadow work. As many of you know, part of this journey, when I said I mentioned this in the first one as well. So the 7+ year celibacy journey that I embarked on, that I was on, right? In that time of doing the inner work and saying, I'm going to become the right person for me. And I'm going to become an expert on self-love, because that was something I just did not know anything about. And I was like, no, I'm going to learn, because I realized that so much of this healing journey, this health journey, comes from the self-love journey. Honestly, it does. And the way that you think about yourself, the way that you feel about yourself, the way that you speak to yourself, all of this stuff matters. And loving yourself enough to show up for yourself, to keep the promises that you make to yourself, to care about what you consume, and to move your body every day, and to realize, have the self-awareness to recognize that you may have some beliefs, not even that they're not even yours. They're other people's beliefs, right? And they've been conditioned to you over time or whatever, but you've got this belief system, this certain set of belief system, or a way that you were raised, whether that's around food or medicine or treating the symptoms, just putting like a Band-Aid over it instead of getting to the root cause. Like, if that's how you've been living, because that's how generations before you lived, and it's just how it's done, and the people around you, I get it. Like, I get it. I get it. It's fine. And if you're ready to embrace a whole different paradigm, like to have a paradigm shift and to lean into this idea that, like, you know what? Those things that, for instance, I look at when I was a child and diagnosed with depression, And I'm able to see now, knowing what I know now. And look, this is one of the beautiful things too about choosing generational living and being able to have spent the last 9 years living in the proximity of my parents. So my children have gotten to have that, you know, me and then their grandparents. And then there were even times when my mom's dad lived with us on and off for a year, the last year of his life. And I will say that his life did end from melanoma. And so, mom's fears, I don't mean to laugh at that. I'm saying mom's fears, always me, my moles growing up, like that manifested itself and ultimately ended up being the thing that, you know, took my grandfather, transitioned out of this world and onto whatever is next. And y'all, thoughts are powerful. And, that's all of those things. Thoughts become things and words create worlds and all of this stuff. And so part of what I decided was that for me to be healthy, that I was going to have to speak health into my body, and that I was going to have to reprogram the beliefs that told me that, for one thing, almost everyone, if not every member of my family that I know of that has passed on to some form of cancer. And I was like, not how I want to go. And for a while, there was this fear of cancer inside of me prior to this journey, because why not? Because everyone in my family, grandparents, aunts, or the of them, my dad had even had cancer as well, which fortunately, he's still here. But I'm saying that cancer is like all in my family, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want cancer, and I want to do something that nobody else in the family is doing. Like I don't want the same. I want a different lifestyle, and so I learned from a dear friend who also went through cancer. And while they were going through it, the doctor had told them that not to eat meat. And I didn't understand at the time. This is when I was even still married, right? So not to eat meat was one of the things. And I learned at that time, because of the acidity in it. Now, I didn't even know about yoga yet. That wasn't even on the radar. But this was just something that like filed away in the back of my mind, right? That meat, especially red meat, is acidic, and that, cancer thrives more in an acidic environment. It can't really thrive in an alkaline environment. And so filed that away. It wasn't until years later that it came back up, when it was like the transitioning to plant-based thing came up. And I was thinking about my health, and I was on this journey already, this intentional journey of self, and this self-love journey, self-discovery, self-awareness, self-actualization, and was saying that, like, I used to have this mantra that I was like, cancer cannot exist in my body. And I was like, but I'm still focusing on cancer. I mean, it was to the point I was like saying this mantra every day. And I was like, no, no, no. And that was where the shift happened for me. It was like, well, then plant-based made sense for me. If that was something, and if I can have a mostly alkaline diet, then I'm creating an alkaline environment inside of my body, and that's not conducive to cancer cells thriving. So I'm like, let me just focus on what you want. And I want to have an environment I want to have a body that's more alkaline. So I'm just going to eat more plants, right? And so that's what I'm doing. And I love it. And my body, and so that also, vegan, plant-based, meant no more dairy or any of that for me. And I can't specifically say any one thing that contributed, because I'm telling you, I did all these things, again, holistically, as a whole approach. My gut health, and I'm doing the inner work. So I'm journaling, I'm doing the shadow work, I'm doing all the things, right? And look, I'll tell you another thing too, because this just popped into my head. Another thing I was really dealing with back, again, the teen years, into early adulthood and just in beyond and into that was feminine, the feminine reproductive, all of this stuff. So I was having my menstrual cramps were so severe. And I know even as early as in college, I would sometimes not even be able to go to class because the cramps would be so bad. And I was often getting uh, urinary tract infections, bladder infections, or BV, or any of these other sorts of things that were going on, yeast infections, things that are not pleasant. If you're a female and you've had one, you know it's not fun to have. And I was getting them, I feel like, often. And also, if I think about the time between, graduating high school and then the 2 years before I met who I would go on to marry and have children with before divorcing, those 2 years when I became really promiscuous, because again, I had no self worth, no idea of self love. And that was who I was at the time. And so, all of that stuff, again, I'm not making the connection at the time that these things manifesting in my body are also just look at my lifestyle and look at the environment, look at what I'm creating, right? So, when I made all these adjustments and started looking at the whole picture and changed the way that how I'm protecting my own energy, setting boundaries, journaling, meditating, breath work, yoga practice, walking, being in nature, doing all the things and changing these limiting beliefs into to realizing that I don't have to know I can survive without these medicines. I don't have to have them. And y'all, it's happened. And so now, happier and healthier than ever, haven't taken anything in over 6 years. Again, like 72 maybe hours of feeling unwell in 6.5 years. I have such a healthy relationship with my womb now. My cycles are regular, they're beautiful, they're pain free, they are wonderful. I'm not having any of the female issues anymore. I'm not having any of the chronic back pain. I've got, like I said, practicing contortion now and all of this flexibility that is just heart opening. And it's electrifying in my body when I am able to go into a full wheel and grab onto my ankles and then ground down into my heels and press my hips forward and straighten my legs and lift my heart. And I'm imagining it as I'm doing it, and lift my heart and open my heart. Oh my gosh, when that connection happens and when I'm able to open up that space, it is electrifying the way that I can feel all of the energy in my body moving around in this body that there was a time I was just felt restriction and I felt pain and I felt anger and I felt mad and I felt sad and I felt anxious and I felt trapped and I felt all of these things. And now I feel freedom and I feel health and I feel space and I feel relaxed. And it's a really beautiful feeling. And I want you to know that this is possible, that it doesn't matter how bad you think you are in this point, like how much you're hurting, what your diagnosis is, it doesn't matter. You 100% in this amazing, incredible, phenomenal, mind-blowing, exceptional human body that you have that is capable of healing itself and that is capable of doing things that you really can barely even wrap your mind around. Y'all, you can do it. You can do it. And you there is light on the other side of this. So if you're feeling pain, if you're feeling discomfort, if you're feeling like whatever, if you're feeling, if your health isn't the best, and it whatever, I just want you to hear this, that look at the whole person, look at the whole thing, look at the mind, look at the body, look at the spirit, look at the emotions, look at the environment, look at everything, because it all contributes. And if something manifests in your physical body, that is letting you know that there is some sort of imbalance in your emotional or energetic body. And it is trying, your body is trying to get your attention, and your body is speaking to you. And listen to your body. And understand, don't get angry with your body. Listen, speak to your body. What are you telling me? What do you want me to hear? What do I need to know? And listen and take action. And there might be some things that you need to cut out of your life. Maybe some people, maybe some foods, maybe some drinks, maybe some substances, maybe some habits, maybe some, I don't know. You do though. There might be some things you need to cut out of your life. And if you resist doing this, and it's what needs to actually be done, whatever it is, on the other side of that, however that's manifesting in your life, you not getting rid of it, it's going to persist. It will continue to show up until you cut out that thing that you need to cut out. And on the other side of that, there may be some things in your life that you need to add. Maybe you're not going for those morning walks or evening walks, or maybe you're not getting out into nature, or maybe you need to add meditation, or maybe you need to add journaling. Like maybe there's something you need to add. Or maybe if we're talking about taking away, maybe your space is cluttered. Maybe you need to declutter the space because it's cluttering your mind. Like, as above, so below. As within, so without. The answers are all there, and the answers are all within, and you already have the answers, and you can heal your body. Not if you don't believe you can, but if you believe you can, you got to start there. You got to start with the belief that I am ready to believe something new. I am ready to experience something new. I am ready to heal in a brand new way. Your body's capable. Kind of just waiting on you to be like, all right, let's do something new. Let's rewire those, brain neuro pathways. Let's get some new stuff going on. Let's get some new energy flowing. Let's get some new thoughts thinking. You can do it, friends. So I don't know. I think I've been talking a little longer than maybe I thought I would when I hopped on, but I hope that you got something out of this, because this is really important. I know we're going to be diving into this more later. I'm sure having some incredible guests who can support what I'm saying here in one way or another, and it's going to be great. I've got blog posts on this. I've got Instagram post on this. I talk more about this quite often. Maybe I'll link some of it down here in the show notes. And I hope that you got something out of this, friends. And I'll see you next time. Bye. That was a story, right? We went deep with that. We went far back with that. We went everywhere with that. And guess what? I remembered something after I wrapped it up, and I wanted to throw it in there because I feel like it's relevant. Two things, actually. One thing that I was truly suffering from for a while there, years, was something called dermatillomania, which is basically skin picking. But I was doing this. This is like a condition where you're compulsively picking at your skin, and the injuries from it are usually a cause of stress or mental disorders or anxiety, things like that. And I was doing it on my scalp. I was picking my scalps, sores all over, and it hurt. And I was embarrassed to go get a haircut or anything like that, right? Because it was like all under my hair. My whole scalp was covered, and I just picked and picked and picked and picked and picked and picked at it. And it was compulsive, and I was always picking at my skin and creating these sores, and then just picking at them and reopening them and all that kind of stuff. So that is something that I was also suffering from that is no longer a thing in my life. And another thing, you know how I mentioned that in 7th grade, so around the age of 11 is when I first started wearing glasses and contacts. And they say that as you get older, your eyesight naturally is going to get worse anyway. And I am where you can see close up, but I needed glasses or contacts to help me see far away. And what I was always told is like naturally your eyesight's going to, as you get older, it will naturally become worse. And here's the thing. Here's the really fun, exciting, amazing thing about the human body and everything. I decided, again, that I wanted to heal my body holistically and take this holistic approach. And for the last 4 years in a row, when I have gone to my annual eye doctor appointment for my checkup to get a new prescription, whatever, guess what? My prescription has improved. It has gotten better every year for the last 4 years in a row. The first year, one eye improved. The second year, the other eye improved, caught up, then they were on the same prescription. And the next year, I no longer needed a prescription for my astigmatism. And then the following year, both eyes improved, not at the same rate. One improved more than the other. Here we are. That's 4 years in a row. I'm excited to go back this year. Like, I don't have expectations, but I'm like, wouldn't it be fun to be 5 years in a row, right? Wouldn't it be fun? So I want to mention that because it's important, and I want you to hear it. And I forgot to mention it while we were recording. I'll put everything else in the show notes. See you next time. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It. I hope today's episode sparked something powerful within you. Remember, every step you take towards your vision counts, no matter how small. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a second to hit that subscribe button or leave a review. That would be amazing. Or share the podcast with someone who's ready to bring their dreams into reality too. And if you're looking to dive deeper, connect with me on social media at Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, or at BE_what you want. Or visit dreameditthenreallifedit.us for more resources on aligning your life, business, and dreams. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep manifesting your dreams into real life. Love you, friends.